mute somebody. I gotta admit somebody. We got over 100 people in the building and rising. All right, y'all. Let me close this chat out real quick. So, how is everybody doing? I know it's been an eventful week for the community once again. A lot of things going on. Man, I'm so happy today and proud and thankful to have King Will in the building, who is going to be in here dropping the knowledge about credit, everything we need to know about credit repair, personal credit, how to build it, how to fix it, how to establish it, how to use it to your advantage. Same with business credit. And I want to shout out Will Roundtree as well, who was very instrumental in helping to bring this together. They both showed me major love from the beginning. I told him that I was doing a community event, and this brother is very intelligent. And he gets paid a lot of money to do what he does. I told them that I was doing a community event, trying to put on for us, try to uplift us, and they came through and showed me so much love and came through basically on the strength, you know. So he's doing this for the love of our people, man. So we got to definitely make sure we get that man his flowers, and appreciate Michelle as well. So for those of you guys who were brand new, you know, first time, we started Buy Back the Block in honor of our brother Nipsey. When Nip passed, you know, it was just too much, man. We lost too many people like Nip, Fred Hampton, and yada, yada, it goes on, right? So we just said, look, man, we got to find a way to be able to respond to the forces that are trying to take us out the race, right? And I felt like Nip had a lot of components. He was a complex dude. He was in the STEM, he was in the crypto, he was in the real estate and ownership. And I said, man, the side of him that I understand best when it comes to business is ownership and real estate, because that's what I do. So I said, look, let me just try to take whatever little knowledge I have from the properties that I've invested in and the properties that I've you know, bought as rentals or flips, and try to give it to the community, and hopefully somebody will learn something. And we started it, you know, as a community, and people came because I guess the knowledge, you know, was valuable to folks, and we've grown ever since. And now we sitting here today at 107 people in the room looking to find a way to improve their situation. This is our community, and I'm proud of y'all for being here, man. I just want to say that. So, you know, we went on after we've been running the group now for over a year. We started last June, and we started an investment club as well. And we bought a property out of state in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is a market that I invest in. And we rehabbed that property, sold it, made a good profit on it. And now we're in the middle of our second rehab right now. We've actually finished it. And we got to do something that the city popped up on us that we didn't see coming. We're going to get that done. And that one will be back on the market and ready to sell as well. So group economics is the key. Dr. Claude Anderson taught us all this. In case you don't know about Dr. Claude Anderson, he's probably one of the smartest black men on the planet. Make sure you go get Black Labor, White Wealth. Make sure you go get Powernomics. Read that. The back of Black Labor, White Wealth has exactly what we need as a community to move forward. He teaches us how to put our institutions together. He teaches us how to protect ourselves. So we need to listen to our elders, man, and take game and soak up game where we can. So what we want to do is make this group a financial literacy and education group. It starts, the foundation is obviously with real estate, but you know, like next month we have Tanya Mackey speaking, who's one of the members, and she is a certified financial planner. So she's going to come in and show you how to budget, right? And I know you might be embarrassing, like, man, I already know how to budget. I already know how to manage my money. Man, look, I didn't. You know, I had coins that were going out the door that I didn't realize on subscriptions and stuff that I, you know, didn't realize I still had and stuff like that. So budgeting and sticking to that budget is important if you have financial goals. And, you know, that's just a part of being responsible. So she's going to come in and talk about that. I'm sure she's going to talk about other investment strategies as far as retirement plans and different accounts that we can contribute to that can be tax-free. So there's just a lot of information that our community is behind on because that's the way the system was designed. So our job is to undo what the system did. You know, we got to re-educate, relearn, and unlearn some things that we were taught the wrong way. So one of the things that I like to do to start the meeting off, besides playing music, as y'all can see, is I like to go over at least one current event that's going on that's real estate related, right? So I'm going to, let me share my screen to this article so you guys can read along really quick. And then I'm going to turn over the floor to King Will. So I'm going to share real quick. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this article that's up. It says the CDC issues sweeping temporary halt on evictions nationwide amid pandemic. Says the Trump administration, who I'm sure all of y'all love dearly, is ordering a halt on evictions nationwide through December for people who have lost work during the pandemic and don't have other good housing options. The new eviction ban is being enacted through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, aka the CDC. The goal is to stem the spread of COVID-19 outbreak, which the agency says in its order presents a historic threat to public health. It's by far the most sweeping move yet by the administration to try to head off looming wave of evictions of people who have lost their jobs or taken a major blow to their income because of the pandemic. Housing advocates and landlord groups both have been warning that millions of people could soon be put out of their homes through eviction if Congress does not do more to help renters and landlords reinstate expanded unemployment benefits. But this new ban, which does not offer any way for landlords to recoup unpaid rent, is being met with a mixed response. First, many housing advocates are very happy to see it. My reaction is a feeling of tremendous relief, says Diane Yentl, CEO of the National Low Income Housing Coalition. It is a pretty extraordinary and bold and unprecedented measure that the White House is taking that will save lives and prevent tens of millions of people from losing their homes in the middle of a pandemic. That said, she adds that a move like this from Congress or the White House is long overdue. She says with no money behind it, it kicks the can down the road. While an eviction moratorium is an essential step, it is a half measure that extends a financial cliff for renters to fall off of when the moratorium expires and back rent is owed. Landlords are worried about falling off a cliff too. Doug Bibby is the president of the National Multifamily Housing Council. He says, we are disappointed that the administration has chosen to enact a federal eviction moratorium without the existence of dedicated long-term funding for rental and unemployment assistance. An eviction moratorium will ultimately harm the very people it aims to help by making it impossible for housing providers, particularly small owners, to meet their financial obligations and continue to provide shelter to their residents, Bibby said. He's calling for a myriad of financial assistance measures to help property owners. Under the rules of the order, renters have to sign a declaration saying they don't make more than $99,000 a year or twice that if filing a joint tax return, and that they have no other option if evicted other than homelessness or living with more people in close proximity. That pretty much describes everybody, right? Evictions for reasons other than non-payment of rent will still be allowed. The government says it will impose criminal penalties on landlords who violate the ban. Wow. Both Bibby and Yentl are calling on Congress to enact legislation with funding to help renters and landlords. Congress and the White House must get back to the work on negotiations to enact a COVID-19 relief bill with at least $100 billion in emergency rental assistance, Yentl says. Together with a national eviction moratorium, this assistance would help renters stably house and small landlords able to pay their bills and maintain their properties during the pandemic. So this obviously is a good thing for the people because we don't need people getting put out of their places, period. And we definitely don't need them getting put out now during COVID-19, right? But this also puts your mom and pop landlord in a really tight spot, right? Because what if you're depending on those rents to pay your mortgage and now all of a sudden they're not coming and you can't do anything about it? I mean, again, we've been going over these current events for some months now, and I kept telling you, just keep your eye on the sky because something is probably going to go haywire soon because you just can't pull a rubber band in two opposite directions too long before it pops, right? So what we need to do is just be prepared, stack your cash. If you're getting any sort of extra on top of what you need for your bills right now, whether you're hustling for it, whether you're getting it through unemployment, stack your cash because you don't know what's coming down the pipeline. You might be able to buy something if things fall apart. down the road, and we just want to make sure we're prepared. You know, make sure you cash liquid if you can be. Do whatever you can to raise some extra funds, whatever you got to do to hustle. So with that being said, I see King Will down here. King Will, what it is, man, I'm going to unmute you.
Peace. King Danny, what's going on with you, man?
Oh, man, I can't call it, man. We so honored to have you here in the building, man. And I'm going to stop chattering, man, and turn the thing over to you and let you run with it and tell the people who you are, what you do, and how you going to bless them tonight.
Oh, man, first of all, I appreciate you not only reaching out to me, reaching out to my team, Michelle, but even putting together something like this, man. You know, these are the type of things that we need to shine the light on individuals like you who take leadership roles and wanting to provide information, because the biggest thing I'm always stating is that the number one thing that separates the successful from unsuccessful is information. And for you to be able to put together a platform like this to provide people information, I definitely salute you and tip my hat in any way that I could be of assistance to your organization. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to us, you know, and I'll be there definitely. So again, appreciate you.
Respect, man, respect. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So for those who don't know me, my name is Will Roundtree, president and founder of We Management Services, which we're a financial educational company. Some like to call it credit repair, but it's bigger than that. It's really about education. I'm also a 2-time author. The first book, Credit is King, which I always say is really just like a credit manual that is going to teach you everything you need to know and understand about credit, the importance of it. You know, what is credit? You'd be surprised what a lot of people don't know. The myths about credit, how to deal with credit issues, how to deal with identity theft, all of the different things. And it's a very easy read for those who don't have it. You know, I highly recommend that you go and purchase that book. You can actually go to Amazon.com, or if you're, you know, not an avid reader, there's also an Audible version on Audible.com. My second book, Full-Time CEO, The Shit They Don't Tell You, which is a book on entrepreneurship. And for everyone who's on here, I'm assuming are real estate investors, no matter what level you're on. Being a real estate investor, you're an entrepreneur, whether we look at it that way or not. And the thing I like to talk about in that book is it really just details and highlights the unglamorized side of entrepreneurship. You know, just like real estate, like King Danny mentioned, an investment property that the organization has purchased, some unforeseen things came up. That's going to happen in business. It happens in life. I mean, I remember my team and we had an investment property and had a contractor go in, rehab it. We went and looked at it, and nothing on the scope of work was completed after we've already paid them $15,000 for the rehab. How do you handle those how do you handle those situations? You can't handle it emotionally. And those are the things that I talk about in my book, Full-Time CEO. Also TEDx speaker. And my biggest thing, and what I talked about on my TED talk is the power of fear and the power of failure, and how the quickest way to get to success is to double your rate of failure. And some may hear that and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, it really does, because one of the number one reasons most people don't hit their pinnacles of success is because they're too scared to fail. Trust me, when you were 6, 7 years old, or whatever age you learned to ride a bike, it was inevitable you were gonna fall off at some point going through that process. And going through business is the exact same way. And so I just all encourage people, just, if you get an opportunity, the video is about 8-9 minutes long, to go and check it out. It's called The Power of Failure. And then my biggest thing that I often talk about is, no matter what your focus is in business and entrepreneurship and real estate, I always like to talk to people about the power of changing your mindset. And so I say that because whatever your preconceived notion is about credit, about dealing with credit, business credit, credit cards, all that, I want everybody to throw that out the window today, at least for this next hour or so. And I really want you to change your mindset in everything that I'm going to share with you. Some of it may be completely new to you. Some of it may go against everything that we've learned in the past. Because one of the things that I've learned is that this is information we have not been taught. And because we have not been taught it, it puts us at a disadvantage, which is why a lot of times we're losing in this economic battle, why the wealth gap is such a huge disparity. And so there's a famous quote that says, when you change your thinking, that's when you'll become successful. And that's where that mindset shift comes in at. And so I really want people to just take the blinders off for this next hour and just really dig in, because what I want to talk to you guys about is really just about positioning. You know, I have this thing called my 3 Ps. And my thing is I want to put people, I want you to be in position to have the power to purchase. I want you to be in position to have the power to purchase. What does that mean? One, how do you get in position? What does that even mean? Well, I'll talk about positioning, one, for the standpoint of, you know, King Danny talked about potentially a bubble coming. Now, the only thing we can do is just plan for it. And how do you plan for that? Is by getting in position financially. You know, a lot of people missed out on the opportunity back in '08 because they didn't plan properly. And so I want every last one of us on this live right now to make sure that at least we get the information to either where we can get positioned properly or put a loved one or someone from our team in position, you know, because we want to get in position to have the power. See, the power is in the purchasing. You know, when we can go out as a unit and buy back the block and really mean it, when we can go out there and own our IP, our intellectual property, whether it's informational, whether it's, you know, the namesake of the company or whatever it is. And so we always want to be in position. You may ask, well, how do you get in position? And that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about. And it really does start with credit. And so I say that because I speak to so many people across the country. I've traveled the country. I've met with people from every single income bracket that, you know, you could even fathom. And one of the biggest things that I often notice when it comes to wealthy people is understanding positioning and the power of leverage. So for anyone taking notes, I'm real big on taking notes. Even while Danny was talking, I'm taking notes, because one of the things that I've learned is that a short pencil is always better than a long memory. You know, so I write everything down, no matter where I'm at, and I always try to document information, because I never know how that little bitty piece of information can assist me anywhere in my life. And so the word leverage, see, when you truly understand the power of what leverage is, it will change your life. What do I mean by that? So in relation to real estate and understanding the power of leverage, most successful people never use their own money for real estate. They don't. And that's because they understand leverage. And so in relation to leverage, it plays a role with credit, because once your credit is in position, guess what? You will always be able to get access to the bank's money. I like to call it TBM. And when you can get access to the bank's money, that makes it that much easier, because I get it. I don't know about you guys, and I think it's 120, 30 people on here. I don't have a rich Uncle Phil from Beverly Hills. You know, I wasn't born with the trust fund account and all of that. And so we have to most of us have to get it from the mud. And the beautiful thing I like about real estate is that it's one of the lowest entry points for us to be able to get in to create wealth and be able to start from nothing. But as long as you have great credit, it gets your foot in the door. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about. So the first thing I really want to touch on is that, what is credit? And I know, as elementary as that may sound, you'd be surprised how many people do not really understand credit. And a lot of times people talk about, okay, my credit score is a 750 and this, that, and the third. And I want people to understand it's so much bigger than a credit score. I'm going to teach you about the credit profile. But before we go into that, what makes up the credit score is so vastly important, because once you understand that, you will always be able to reposition your credit. Because no matter where you are on the credit spectrum, look, I started with a 410 credit score in 2009. Well, no, excuse me, 2005, when I first moved to Las Vegas. And so I often tell people that story is that I wasn't always in position credit-wise, but I did what I had to do to get the information, and it took me 2 years to fix my credit. I often like to share that too, because it may take someone on this live 2 years. It may take you 3 years. But the thing I'm always sharing with people, even if it did, so what? Because what are you going to be doing over those 2 to 3 years anyway? And that's when you typically want to use that time or leverage that time to tap in with, powerful organizations like, Buy Back the Block, LA, and different things like that, and really just get more information. Again, remember, the information is your currency. The information is your currency. And so what is a credit profile comprised of? So for those who are taking notes, and I'll go through this because it's a couple things I really want to touch on. The first thing is understand 35% of your credit score is made up of payment history. 35% of our score makes up payment history, or is tied to payment history. Why is that important? Because your payment history is the largest component of what makes up your credit score. So let's look at this from both sides of the spectrum. If you get a late payment on your credit report or in your profile, a credit score can drop anywhere from 50 to as much as 150 points. 50 to as much as 150 points for one late payment. So those $15 credit card payments that we sometimes miss because we're on vacation or life happens or whatever, your score can drop, literally. And so I shared that with people because a lot of times you can have nothing negative reporting except that one late payment and your score is not where you quite want it to be. Now, if you get a late payment, it's definitely not the end of the world. Typically, what I like to share with people is that you can dispute that. So one of the things that you can do and that we typically recommend is called the power of the goodwill letter. So for those who are taking note, the goodwill letter, which I actually talk about that in my book. And what I'm going to do for you, King Danny, and everyone who's on here, anyone who wants a copy of that goodwill letter, I'm going to bless that to you guys completely complimentary. So I'll send it to Danny, and whoever wants it, they can reach out to him directly. Now, the goodwill letter, essentially, it's not guaranteed that it's going to help or anything like that, but it is something that's going to assist you in at least having some type of ammunition to dispute with the credit bureaus. Now, sometimes it may work after one letter. I had clients who have to send it 10, 15 times, but it all boils down to what are you willing as far as your level of sweat equity to put in to get those late payments eradicated. So it may take more than one letter. And so just understand, if you do have that late payment, it's not the end of the world. Now, let's look at payment history on the other side of the spectrum. Let's say you have what they call a thin credit file, meaning you went out, bought a vehicle a couple years ago because they told you come and buy this vehicle and it helped to build your credit. First of all, that is not true. Buying a car does not help you build your credit. I want to dispel that myth. All right. So now, if all you have reporting on your credit is the car note and you're at the end of the loan and you say, you know what, I'm going to pay this off early so my score can jump, so I have no debt reporting, et cetera, et cetera. You pay the car note, you pay the car loan off, you don't have anything else reporting, and your score drops 100 points. You're going to ask yourself, why is that? That is because you no longer have payment history. Remember, 35% of your score is made up of payment history. So if you have nothing to report payments, your score drops. And so I want everyone to look at the credit profile or the credit as a game. And when you learn the rules, you play it differently. And so I'm not saying go out and continue to buy things to keep your credit going, but you want to have a dense enough of a file to ensure that you have enough information reporting to keep the file where you will still continue to have some form of payment history. So again, just keep in mind, if you pay accounts off early, especially installment accounts, and I'll tell you guys what installment accounts are, it could drop your score if you have a thin credit file. Now, there's two types of credit, installments and revolving. Installment accounts would be a mortgage, student loans, auto loans, anything with a fixed payment. Once you pay those off, that reporting history no longer impacts your score. Revolving accounts are credit cards, department store cards, which I recommend not ever applying for. And so revolving credit is actually one of the fastest and strongest ways to keep your credit profile strong, which actually goes into the second component of what makes up a credit score, and that's 30% is comprised of revolving credit usage. Credit usage makes up 30% of your score. Now, what does that mean? That means take the totality of your credit cards. So if you got 5 credit cards and it totals $10,000, 30% of your score is calculated based off of the balances of that $10,000 reporting. Now, the $10,000 reporting, typically, in order for your profile or your score to stay strong enough, you do not want to exceed 30% of your total balances, of your total limits. So taking that same $10,000 cumulative credit card limits, if you go over 30%, which is $3,000, you will start to see your score decline. So I point that out because sometimes people have nothing negatively reporting on their credit, but their credit usage is too high. So if you have that $10,000 of credit limits, but you have $9,000 in balances, your credit utilization is 90%, which can drop your score as much as 100 points. So again, the further above 30% you go, the more it's going to hurt your credit score. Now, 30% I always say is like having a C average in school. So the further below 30% of your total limit you are, the stronger the score is going to go. And there's a big difference in your score from 30% to having 10% reported. Okay. Now, let's look at the other side of the spectrum when it comes to credit usage. Let's say, again, you have a thin credit file, because I know some of us in here have been told don't get credit cards, they're bad and evil and all these different things that they've told us in our community. Again, only reason we've heard that because our parents have told us that, but that's because the people who told them that didn't want them to have access to the information on the power and actually how to leverage credit and leverage credit cards. So they actually condition us to think negatively about the one thing that can help us to create wealth, and it's understanding the power of credit. And so when it comes to having a thin credit file, let's say all you have is a $300 credit card. You got a secure credit card, it's $300, and you go out, make a purchase for $200. You're now at an 80% credit usage, and guess what happened to your score? It just dropped. You didn't do anything negatively. You didn't get a collection. It's because we didn't understand the credit game and how credit utilization, and by not having enough access to credit, can actually hurt your credit score. So my rule of thumb, I always say, is at minimum, we want to have access to at least $5,000 to $10,000 of available credit. Minimum $5,000 to $10,000. And that's just in case emergencies. You know, for example, let's say you're a real estate investor. Okay, you don't believe in credit. Water heater goes out. Depending on what part of the country you live, to purchase the water heater, and the install may cost you $2,000. Well, you don't have any cash in the bank, no reserves. What is the first thing that most people are going to use? A credit card. Well, if you don't have access to enough credit, typically you run the risk of not being able to get that repaired. And that can work in any spectrum of your life. The brakes need to be repaired on your car, whatever. And so I want people to think about just looking at credit as a tool. You know, just like a great carpenter, they need tools to build a home. A barber needs tools to be an effective barber, or a stylist, or whatever. So to be effective, a real estate investor, or even from just an entrepreneur, a business owner, your credit is your tool. I often say your credit is the lifeline to your business. You know, your credit is the lifeline to your business. So you want to keep your credit usage at 30% or less. All right, next, 15% is made up of the length of your credit history. The length of your credit history, 15%. Why is that important to know? Sometimes that's the difference between having that 700 to an 800. I often get people to say, hey, you know, well, I have a 700 credit score. I want to get to an 800. How do I do that? It's not by adding trade lines, and I'll go into what that means a little bit later. It's by letting your credit file season. You know, a lot of times your age of credit may only be a year old. Well, typically your score starts to mature once your file is at least 3 to 5 years old. So the more your file starts to mature and season, as I like to call it, is going to strengthen your length of credit history, which then makes your score increases. So again, 15% makes up the length of your credit. Next 10% is new credit. You want to make sure that over the course of time, you're getting new accounts. As your accounts stay dormant, you don't always get the percentage in jumps of your credit score. And then the last 10% is having a mixture of credit, which are installment accounts and revolving. So just to kind of give you to review, 35% is credit payment history. 30% is credit usage, which those are the two top components of what makes up your credit score. 15% is the length of your credit, 10% is new credit, and then the last 10% is a mixture of credit. So now, once you understand those 5 components, they call it the pie chart of credit, you will always be able to rebound from where your credit is at or to always improve it. The reason I say that, I've talked to people who, because all they have is a $300 credit card, they go out of town, they use the $300 to rent a vehicle. The rental may cost them $299. Their score drops and they don't know why. Well, now you can go and say, oh, that's credit usage. All I gotta do is pay the card down and I'm back in the game. And it's really important for us to know that, because a lot of times we perish for a lack of knowledge. And I say that because I've seen people who will take a bruise or a bump or have a small credit hiccup and they think life is over. They want to file bankruptcy because of a late payment, which I often say bankruptcy is really just asset protection. You know, we can have a whole nother live just on that. It's not for poor people. It's not, and I really want us to get conditioned in wealthy people's habits, you know, because there's wealthy people habits and poor people habits. I want everyone on here to get used to wealthy people habits, okay? So understanding that when it comes to understanding credit, that is your, I like to call it your winning lottery ticket to opening and getting access really to be able to do whatever it is you want to do. What does that mean? So for all my entrepreneurs and investors on here, I often share my story of how I first got into real estate investing about 5-6 years ago. And I bought my very first investment property using a credit card. Now, some may ask, how in the world do you buy a house with a credit card? Do you go swipe it, whatever? No, it's about the strategy of credit. What do I mean by that? So when you have access to capital, and I don't like the word business credit, I like to call it capital. I stay away from the term business credit because when people hear that, I want to first dispel the myth of what business credit is. Business credit, when people hear that, we think I can go to the bank and get a bunch of money without using my social security number. I want to tell people those days are over. Every single bank will always ask you your social security number in order to be able to get access to the capital, period. And people hear, well, I heard so-and-so can do this and that and that. It's kind of a smoke and mirrors. What does that mean? Yes, you can use your EIN solely to get what are called non-cash credit cards, non-cash cards. Gas cards is essentially what they are. So if you're a truck driver, you got a trucking company, you want a bunch of gas cards, knock yourself out. If you have a company that needs inventory with a company that has a net 30 account where you need envelope, pencils, pens, different things, knock yourself out. But if you're trying to get cards, credit cards, where you can actually use the cash on there to pay for a rehab, to pay for the investment property, to show for proof of funds, use for a down payment, whatever whatever you need it for, you need to use cash, revolving cash cards. Now, how do you get yourself in that position? First off, your personal credit must be in position. Your personal credit must be in position. Remember, we talked about the 3 Ps. You got to be in position. What does the personal credit need to look like? And then secondly, you got to have your business set up. I speak to a lot of real estate investors who do not even have an LLC, or they want to do a sole proprietorship, which is nothing wrong with that. But one of the things I believe in is not taking shortcuts, because you'll be surprised, a lot of banks, especially when it comes to real estate investing or refinancing, especially when you're dealing with private and non-conventional banks, they don't like to deal with sole proprietorships. They want it to be attached to an entity in the form of an LLC, incorporation, S Corp, whatever you set up as your corporate structure. Speak with your tax strategist is going to be based upon your tax, how you want to be taxed and all of that good stuff. But you have to have a business entity in place and then have your personal credit in place. Once you have those 2 things in place, and then I'll briefly go over what your personal credit needs to look like, and then I'll go into some strategy and I'll take a couple questions, King Danny, for you. Once your personal credit is in position, you have the entity set up. Literally, that is the easiest way to get access to the bank's money, and I'll tell you why. Now, the personal credit needs to be at least a 680 to a 700. I tell people that at least closer to the 700 range is because just like with anything, the stronger the profile, the better the approval odds are. Okay. And if you're not at a 680 to 700 today, no worries. You know, we have tons of programs. There's a ton of information out there to be able to improve your credit over time. And you may not be in position today, but I often talk about having a credit partner. This organization may very well have your next credit partner in there. What does that mean? Meaning, let's say you know the information, you have the knowledge, you've invested in the information and the material, but your credit not in position. You have someone with good credit. You have the LLC. Literally, you take your credit partner, add them to your LLC, create an operating agreement. Now you guys can go to the banks and get some capital to go and invest in real estate. But again, it's all about strategy, okay? So you got the company, you need a minimum 680 to a 700 credit score, all right? Your credit usage needs to be at least 30% or less of your total revolving credit cards. Now, the further below 30%, the stronger your approval odds, okay? 30%. No collections or late payments reporting. I already talked about how to dispute late payments. Let's say you do have a couple pesky collection accounts. And let's just say you have that 1 or 2 collection account that needs to get removed. Couple things you can do. For those who have not been or don't follow me on YouTube, I have a video of why you should not pay your collection accounts. Now, I'm not saying that not to pay them so you can just unethically not pay them. I say that never pay them without having the proper information. What does that mean? It means that you don't want to pay your collection accounts unless you're going to ask for a deletion letter, because just paying the collection could actually drop your credit score. So if you do pay it in full, request the deletion letter, which means they remove it completely off the report. Now, some people may say, well, the account is too much. I don't want to, I can't afford it. Should I just do a settlement? You can, but it won't remove off your report. So in the event, if you do have to settle, I always recommend at least try to dispute the account first. And yeah, you may owe the debt, but that doesn't mean they're reporting the information accurately. So the goal is to force them to prove to you that they're reporting it accurately down to the penny. And if they can't, they have to delete it off the report. So in the event, again, for having those pesky collection accounts and different things like that, you can dispute that. So no collection accounts, no late payments, credit usage 30% or less, 680 to 700 credit score, no public records, which means no active bankruptcies or anything like that. Age of file, most banks want to see at least 3 to 5 years, and then they want to see that you have at least $3,000 to $5,000 of credit cards already reporting. 3,000 to 5,000. Okay. So now let's say this is a perfect world. That's your profile. You got a strong credit score. Your company's been up and running. What do we do? How do we get to the money? So literally as simple as it is, there's actually a loophole in the banking system when it comes to getting access to capital. Now, there's a difference between loans and revolving credit. Okay, loans and revolving credit. Now, to get a small business loan, good luck. You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning and winning the lottery the same day. It's like impossible. And so I say that because most banks, in order to apply for a loan, they want bank statements, they want P&Ls, balance sheets, tax returns. Most small business and entrepreneurs don't have those things. And they want to see that your company is cash flowing at least 1.5 million in revenue. So to get access to a loan is impossible. But revolving capital, revolving credit, there's a loophole in that system with the banks. Again, this is the information they haven't taught us. When you have the two components, the good credit and the LLC, you can go to any bank in North America and apply for revolving credit in the form of credit cards or business lines of credit. Credit cards or business lines of credit. There's a difference. What are business lines of credit? Business lines of credit is the bank will give you a line of credit where you can go and draw cash off of. And or the credit cards, whether it's personal or business, and I often tell people it shouldn't matter if it's personal or business because it's all bank capital. And when you have the right strategies to use to invest in real estate, you just want to use the bank money anyway. It works like a credit card. And we show you strategies on how to actually liquidate the card, not using cash advances. So when I talked about buying my first investment property using a credit card, I was able to take and liquidate the cash off the cards and buy the property. And now I'll go into that scenario towards the end of the call. So with the loan, it's almost impossible to get, okay? Revolving credit, couple things I want people to know and the power of revolving credit. One, it's unsecured. Unsecured, meaning you don't have to put up any collateral, nothing. Whereas a loan, you got to provide documentation and everything to your business. So your company can be 1 day old and you can go and apply for some business capital, credit cards, etc. Now, for a business line of credit, most banks want your company to be at least 2 years old. So, okay, but don't let that stop you. When I first started applying for capital, it was all credit cards. I didn't let that stop me. I say that because a lot of times we say, well, I just want to get to the lines of credit. Well, we have to crawl before we walk, you know, and just leverage the information to be able to go out there and execute. And let's stop waiting for, you know, some magical investor to come down and sprinkle some financial investment pixie dust money on us. It doesn't happen. We need to put ourselves in position, like I talked about. All right, so no collateral. Next thing is it's non-discretionary. For those who do not know what that means, non-discretionary means you can use the capital for whatever. So if you need to show proof of funds to get approved for the property, you can use the capital for proof of funds. You need 10% or 20% down payment. Guess what? You can liquidate the cash off the cards to use towards the down payment. You need to pay for rehab. Guess what? You can use the capital for rehab. You need to pay for appraisals. You need to pay for closing costs. You need to pay for inspections, whatever. The capital can be used for any of that. That's the power of revolving credit. Now, another thing, and this was my favorite thing that I learned, is you can use stated income and household income. For those who do not know what that means you can use projected, stated, and household income. Meaning, let's say you make $25,000 a year, but everybody in the house, cumulatively, the income is $110,000. Guess what you put on the application for income? $110,000. I literally had a client who was going through coaching with me and lost his job in the middle of the process. I was helping him purchase his first investment property. He went after and wanted to get some capital. He didn't have a job, but guess what he was able to do? Use household income and projected business income. And over the course of working with him for 18 months, we got him access to $173,000 of capital. And he bought his very first investment property. And he didn't have a job, but he had the right information and the strategies to go along with the information. And that's why I often talk about what separates us is really the information, which the strategy is inside the information. I really want to stress that. So the revolving credit, unsecured, uncollateralized, non-discretionary. You can use stated income, household income. That's powerful, people. Think about that. You can literally have $0 in the bank today and go out and buy an investment property in the next 6 months. Think about it. All you got to have is a good credit score in a company, or know a credit partner and have a company, and you have the information and knowledge to put them in position on your company to go to the banks. And then guess what? Let's say you got 5 LLCs. Guess how many of those LLCs you can take to the banks and go and get capital to invest in real estate or whatever it is you want to invest in. All 5 of them. I had a client in upstate New York. She had 3 companies. She owned a barber college, a barber shop, and had barber products. The companies were, seasoned. So I took her to one of my bank partners. Now, a lot of times with these banks have multiple products that you can apply for. Multiple products. You can apply for a credit card personally, a credit card business, and a business line of credit. In some banks, you can apply for 2 personal cards, 2 business cards, and a line of credit, which actually gives you 5 products you can apply for. But this particular bank, it was 3 products. For those who are taking notes and you got your calculators handy, I want you to write this down. I'm gonna show you the power and information. So we took her to one of my bank partners, took all 3 companies. We got her a business credit card for $25,000, a business credit card for $25,000. We got her a personal credit card for $30,000, a personal credit card for $30,000, and we got her a business line of credit for $50,000. Who can tell me what that totals out to? credit card for $25,000, a credit card for $30,000, and a line of credit for $50,000. Who can tell me what that totaled? $105,000. Now, she had 3 companies. She got approved for that on all 3 companies. So what's 105,000 times 3? That's 1 bank. That's why this information is powerful. That's why they didn't want us to have access to this information. Think about it. If we knew this 20 years ago, there would be no such thing as gentrification, because we would own our blocks. If we knew this information, if we knew the power of it, we wouldn't even let people in our communities or neighborhoods. We would own our grocery stores. We would own the bodegas. We would own the dry cleaners. We would own the hospitals. We would own the medical facilities. We would own everything in our vicinity of our neighborhoods. But we have to get the information. And once we get the information, we have to execute. We have to execute. And then the last thing I want to share is why, or the power of being able to use credit to buy the properties. So I talked to you guys about buying my very first investment property. I actually paid, it was only $25,000. Now, King Danny, I heard you talk about you guys purchasing in the Midwest, correct?
Yes, sir. Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay. For those who do not know, the Midwest is the best areas of the country to invest in real estate in. I'm going to tell you why. It is one of the very few places in the United States where you can go and buy a property for less than $100,000 and get almost up to $1,000 in rent. In Las Vegas, where I live, the average purchase price is about $350. Okay, this is the game I'm putting y'all up on when it comes to understanding your ROI. The average property in Las Vegas is about $350. My mortgage would probably be about $2,000. The most I can rent that out for is maybe $2,100. I'm making $100 a month. And after my property management fees and everything else, I'm actually in the hole. Believe it or not, that's how a lot of people buy real estate. But when you can go to the Midwest, where I bought my first investment property, I paid $25,000, which was a turnkey property, which means that it was already a tenant in place and I didn't have to do much to the rehab. The rental income was $925 a month. Paid $25,000, pulled it from the credit cards. Okay. Now, understand, I still had to service the debt on the credit cards, which was maybe like $115, maybe $200. I forgot. Okay. Now, I was making $950, so I'm still extremely profitable. Now, just because I paid $25,000 doesn't mean that's what the property was worth. The property was worth about 40-something thousand after about 6 months. Well, it had a little bit of equity in there anyway. Okay. So after 6 months of the property seasoning, I was able to go and refinance, get up to 80% of that. So I was able to get about $30,000 from that refinance, which those who may not know, when you refinance and take capital out of the property, you don't pay taxes on that money. Okay. This is another power of real estate. Was able to refinance, take that 30 grand, pay my credit cards back off. Now I'm still cash flowing at about 35% ROI. Now I'm liquid again on the credit cards. Now I can take that particular credit line, go to the bank, ask for a credit limit increase, and then rinse and repeat that several times. So think about that. Money should never be our issue, ever. We just didn't have the right information nor the proper strategies. We looked at credit cards negatively, some of us, and when I say us, I'm never talking about on the line, I'm just saying as a whole. See, we've been conditioned to look at credit from a consumer standpoint, to take that trip to Tulum, Mexico, or buy the bags and the shoes and the sneakers. No, when I get a line of credit, I'm thinking about what asset can I go and purchase? And that's how we need to start understanding credit, because I'm going to use my assets to finance the lifestyle. So it's nothing wrong with wanting the nice cars and the clothes and the watches and all of that, but let your assets pay for that. And that's really the power of what credit can do for you. And again, it all starts with understanding the 3 Ps, putting yourself in position to have the good credit, no matter how long it takes you, getting the purchase, getting access to purchase so you can have the power. The power is in us having ownership. on all levels. So whether you want to go and start a new business, get your credit right, get some capital, and you can go and start that business. You want to buy a franchise? Guess what? Get the bank's money, go buy that franchise. So there's so many different scenarios. I mean, King Danny, I could talk about this all day. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited, man. So, I definitely open it up for some Q&A, if anybody had anything specifically. But I don't want us to take this information for granted. I really don't want us to take it loosely because, family, look, we're 0-400 plus years right now. We're behind the 8 ball. They say the top 2 ways that wealth is passed down from generation to generation is real estate and life insurance, and we dead last in both of them. We need to change that, and it starts with coming together as an organization right here. I mean, it's 150 of us on here. Think about if all of us just chipped in $5,000, what type of purchasing power we could have right there. 5,000. And you may say, well, I don't have 5,000 in the bank. Well, let's get you 5,000 of credit, whatever it may be. We just need to get in position because I'm telling you, it's really, money should never be the issue, ever. So, yeah, that was my 15 cents, man.
Man, no, that's beautiful, man. And, hey, I told y'all this man was going to come in here and burn it down. And he did just that. So we got him until 8:30. It's 29 minutes. We're going to blaze through these questions, man, because I know people got a ton of them. I'm going to start with Robert Biggs. Before I start with the questions, a little housekeeping. Make sure y'all following us on IG at Buy Back the Block LA, all right? That way you can make sure you know about everything that's coming up. You don't miss out on any of these meetups because, as you can see, whoever didn't pull up, they missed out on some gems. So starting with Robert Biggs. Biggs has a question. He says, I have 6 courts, 5 LLCs, and 1 S Corp. I can get credit cards all day, but no business lines. Any recommendations?
The first thing I would ask are the companies over 2 years old? And secondly, depending on the banks you go to, some banks may ask for financials. So that's where some of the strategy comes in, where we, typically show a lot of our clients, because not every bank operates the same. But like I say, the first thing is are the companies 2 years or older?
Well, one of the companies 19 years, 2 of the companies are over 2 years, and the rest of the LLCs are within the 2 year to 1 month range.
Okay, and have you tried to apply for business lines of credit?
I haven't recently because in the past it was turned down, but I can get the credit cards all day.
Okay, when they turned you down, what was it due to? Financials?
Shoot, I can't remember. It may have been the financials at the time, actually.
Okay, so a couple things, and this could actually benefit everyone. One, understanding the power of the financials. And so just kind of give you guys my high level information. A lot of the banks will let you use stated income on the financials. So I'll let you guys read between the lines on that. Secondly, for a lot of my real estate investors, depending on what your SIC code is, could be another reason why you're being denied. Meaning, if you're set up as a real estate investment company, when you go and tell the bank, hey, I do real estate investment, trust me, we all like to go in and stunt and say we own all these properties, but when you tell them you're doing real estate investment, that's an automatic denial. Banks don't like to lend money to real estate investment companies. So typically what I tell my clients to do is to tell them, if your company has realty in there or homes or properties or something like that, tell them you do property management. It's a lower risk industry. And you'll be surprised, just something that minute can be the difference of an approval or a denial. So a lot of times it's our SIC codes and our business industry that's also causing us to be denied.
Cool. You got what you need, Biggs?
Yeah, that'll work. Other than the straight recommendations for the banks.
Say that again?
If you can actually recommend some of the financial institutions you work with.
Well, because a lot of the banks are regional, I would have to actually sit down with you and we can go over those. And I would actually like to look at your financials and seeing where you're at. And I'll provide my information for anyone who does want to book a one-on-one consultation with me at the end of this, and I'll provide that to King Danny. He can provide you guys my info.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll make sure we drop that in the chat. And when I send the recording out of this, we'll make sure that we include all of Will's information to the books, to his one-on-ones, everything. Okay, I got a question from Head Start Investment. They said I have 20K with 5K. I'm guessing 20K in cash with 5K in debt. Should I pay off that credit card?
Very good question. It depends on what your end strategy is. So when it comes to dealing with money, and this is when it comes to dealing with financing on a high level, the information is it sounds simple, but you'd be surprised. It's high level information to most people who aren't in the finance game. It's about being able to we have to understand if servicing that debt cheaper than being able to is paying it off cheaper, or it's just being able to service the debt cheaper. That way you keep your liquid capital to be able to make investment moves. And I'll give you guys an example. So let's say you have a house, you owed $100,000 on it, and you got $100,000 in the bank, and you say, you know what, I want to pay this house off. Okay. Now, a consumer mind will say, I'll pay it off and I'll be debt free. A business-minded person to say, you know what, I'm going to let my investments continue to service that debt because the money is cheap enough, and I'm going to be able to keep my liquid capital in case another opportunity comes about. And so we always have to look at what the end goal is first, because you want to stay liquid for opportunity. So let's just say the moratorium ended tomorrow. You go and see a 27-unit building for sale for $100,000, but you just paid your house off thinking it's going to make you and put you in a better position. Well, I'd rather be liquid. So if that 27-unit building comes available for $100K, I can go and cash out, because then guess what? That 27 unit is going to pay my mortgage off anyway. So again, it's really just about strategy and understanding how money and financing and debt servicing and all of that works. So to answer your question, it depends on what your end goal is. And as long as you still have a strong credit profile and different things like that, I probably wouldn't tie up $5,000 unless I just had to pay it off to make a move. So that's just my opinion.
Okay. Wiz wants to know, how old does my credit need to be to use for business credit, which you are calling capital now, no more business credit?
So your personal credit file would at least want to be 3 to 5 years, and that's to get some strong approvals. Can your file be less than that? It can, but the approvals are not going to be as strong. Again, banks base everything off of risk. So you can have an 800, but if you've only had an 800 for 6 months, meaning your credit file or your length of credit history is only 6 months, you're not going to fare against someone who has a 710 and their credit file is 10 years old. So it really just depends on, so you can get approvals, they just won't be as strong.
Okay. Kyle wants to know what the names are of the books that we recommend. So can you drop the names of both your books?
Yeah, Credit is King and Full-Time CEO, the shit they don't tell you.
Boom. Okay. Jeremy wants to know, how do personal loans affect your personal credit?
Great question. So personal loans don't impact your utilization. So for example, let's say you're going to get a loan from Lending Club, which I'm not against loans. I just tell people I wouldn't get a loan unless you have a way to service the debt right away. Because if you get a loan today for, let's say, 30 grand, and you don't have a real estate deal or a business or some way to service that debt, that's typically how people get in trouble financially or dig themselves a hole. So, but the loan itself does not hurt your credit score much because it does not go against your credit usage.
Okay. Larry wants to know, how do you successfully dispute a trade line to make a creditor prove that the entire trade line is accurate? What are the strategies, amount, length, prove it's mine, show me the contract? He's asking, are those the methods to get them to have to prove it?
Yeah, good question. All of the above. There's several different ways. I mean, one of the most common ways is to have them prove the last date of activity. So if the account is in negative status, and one bureau may say the last date of activity was July 3rd, 2019, but then another bureau may say it was January 1st, 2017. That's a discrepancy. So yeah, there's many different ways, asking for original agreement, asking them to prove the debt validation, who has the original contract, last date of activity, the balances are off. All of those can be different dispute strategies.
Okay. Sela or Sela, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it the wrong way. Question is, I have little to no credit history. Do you think it's a good idea to finance a car to build my credit? And also, does the amount of your first secured credit card matter?
Great questions. Buying a vehicle does not help you build your credit. So that's the first thing I want to tell you. As far as the secured credit card, this is where I tell people they want to be careful. And what do I mean? So going back to the scenario, you have $10,000 of credit card limit. You're at $9,000, which means you have a 90% usage. If you go get a secured card for $500, it did not drop your credit card usage. You just wasted $500. So, so secured cards do not help in every single situation. Now, the other thing is, I've actually had people who went out and got like 5 or 6 secured credit cards, which only ends up totaling about $2,500. And yeah, it may help your credit, but then now your high limit is only $500. So one of the strategies that we use for a lot of our clients is these what are called vendor accounts. And I'll send the links to King Danny, and you guys can get access to the links. But what the vendor accounts are, they work like secure credit cards. Whereas you put up $500, you get a line of credit for $500. With the vendor account, you go there, and some of you may be familiar with these. You invest $200 with them, and they're going to give you a line of credit to report on your report. You don't use it like a MasterCard or Visa. It's a credit rebuild strategy. But for $200 that you go and invest with them, they're going to report a line of credit on your credit report for $5,000. I have 2 of those companies. So for $400, is going to report over $10,000 of revolving credit on your report. That's how you get your score to jump. Versus going to get one secured card for $500 and it's only going to report $500. So again, that's where that strategy and information comes in at. So I'll send those links to you, King Danny, so you have access to those.
Man, much appreciated, man. Okay, so Jerome, what up? Jerome is asking, do you recommend balance transfer checks to buy properties?
Good question. I would only recommend balance transfers to if you are trying to wash or hide utilization, because the balance transfer itself does not help you buy properties. So it's really more of hiding your utilization strategy, because to buy the actual properties, you need to get the cash off the cards, which would be liquidating the card. So the balance transfer is a good strategy, but it's just not necessarily for the point of being able to buy the property, unless you're trying to lower your credit usage, which then it helps increase your score, which can get you the approval to own the property. So that would be the only way to use it.
Okay. Michael Kirk wants to know, how long do you let the LLC season before you apply for capital?
Your company can be 1 day old, so you don't have to let it season. Your company can be 1 day old. You can at least start applying for credit cards.
Okay. I gotta mute somebody. Hold on. Can you unmute yourself, Will?
Yes, sir.
All right. Felicia wants to know, if you use EIN number, will they also complete a hard credit check using your personal or social security number?
Yes. Mentioned that actually towards the top of the call. Your EIN number is primarily for IRS purposes. It has nothing to do with the banks giving you capital solely on your EIN. So as long as you are trying to apply for cash cards or business lines of credit, the banks will always ask for your social, always.
Okay, this is a good one. I think a lot of people have questions about. I think it's Kamike. She said, where can I go to get help setting up an LLC?
Great question. So depending on what state you're in, I actually have a really great team and resource that, can help you if you don't want to do it on your own. A lot of people go to places like LegalZoom, inkfile.com, or you can just go right to your Secretary of State and fill out the paperwork. It's very simple. It takes you about 5 minutes. But if you aren't one who, has the time or patience for different things like that, you can actually, like I say, go to places like LegalZoom, or if you want someone who you can work with one-on-one, reach out to me and I'll actually connect you with one of our referral partners that can assist you, because some people may be on here that live in different states. But you definitely can go right to the Secretary of State. It literally takes you like 5 minutes to do so.
Okay, cool. Justin wanted to know what's more ways to dispute late payments besides the goodwill letter.
Great question. So now, if you have late payments on a closed account, just dispute the entire account. But if it's an open account, the only method will be a goodwill letter. So now, sometimes you can contact the creditor, and especially now with COVID going on, you can actually claim a hardship. And you'll be surprised, some clients have gotten their late payments reversed because of the hardship. Now, I do want to talk about this real quick, and it has to do with COVID and late payments. I know during this whole moratorium, and this happened at the beginning of when they first instituted where you didn't have to make credit card payments and different things like that. I want to give a disclaimer. Just because some banks may say, hey, you don't have to make credit card payments because of the pandemic, do not fall for that. Because what happens is when you do that, a couple things happen. One, they put notes on your credit report, which means that when you go and start trying to apply for credit, when they see that you can't make a $15 credit card payment, the bank is not going to give you any other money. So don't put your payments on furlough, even because you have the money. You just think that it's a way to kind of stop making credit card payments. It's actually come back to bite people in the butt, to where some banks have actually even start putting late payments on your credit report. So we want to be very careful and very cautious of those things. So be very, very careful of that information, because those late payments can come back to bite you.
Okay, cool. I have a question that says, how can you get capital on real estate when you are fixing your credit?
Say that again.
How can you get capital on real estate when you are fixing your credit?
Great question. So if you're fixing your credit, you may not be in position, but that's why I talked about having credit partners and different things like that. Now, some people may say, well, I can just go get money from a hard money lender, which you can, but keep in mind, in order to get approved from a hard money lender, all the hard money lender is they're going to finance 70 to 80% of the property, which means you still have to come up with a 20 to 30% down payment. And that's where you want to be able to use the capital to have that down payment. So I always tell people, if you have bad credit, challenge credit, it's going to be difficult for you personally to get the capital. But this is where you want to use a credit partner. Now, another disclaimer, because I've had people say, well, I was able to go and get some money with a bad credit score. You can actually go and potentially apply for what's called an MCA loan, which stands for a merchant cash advance. Merchant cash advance. Now, the one thing they don't tell you when you go and apply for an MCA loan, and these are companies like Cabbage, Fundbox, different places like that. The average interest rate for those companies are anywhere between 70 to 250%, sometimes higher than that. And you have to make a daily payment or sometimes weekly. What does that mean? Meaning it's a high risk loan for people with bad credit that have, and they use your invoicing or account receivables or your average monthly bank deposits to determine how much money they would lend you. What does that look like? I had a client who went and borrowed $30,000. Her monthly payment was $7,000, which they took from her account every single month. Every single week. So they divided $7,000 by 4 weeks, and they automatically withdraw that from your bank account. So I highly recommend never applying for an MCA loan. So for those who are saying, how do I get loans with bad credit? Fix your credit, because it'll be a lot cheaper, or find a credit partner.
Cool. So we got a couple good questions here. One was from William. He said, how did he liquidate the credit cards?
It's a strategy by using a merchant account. So if you have access to a merchant account, You can actually, it's a process. Somebody sends you an invoice, you pay the invoice, the cash goes to that merchant account. They take that cash, give it to you, and you can use it for, your purchases and different things like that. So it's a couple other things, which a little bit more in depth, just to make sure that they don't cancel your card. But in layman's terms, that's the process by using merchant accounts.
Okay, and then do you guys provide a service to liquidate?
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. So there you go. You got the info. Okay, Larry said he understands the payment history is 35%. How long is the reach back in time?
Great question. So it can actually go back as long as that account is active. So when I talk about your length of your credit history, if you have accounts that are 20 years old, that age of that account makes a big difference. So one of the things why I say never close a credit card, let's say you have 3 credit cards and one is 15 years old and the other ones are like 2 or 3 years old. The 15-year-old, you say, you know what, I don't want this card no more. I finally paid it to a zero balance. I want to get rid of it. You call the bank, tell them to close the card. Guess what just happened to your score? Dropped substantially because you now lost that payment history. So as long as that account is active, no matter how old it is, that's payment history.
Okay. I'm going to scroll through. We got about 9 minutes left, so I'm going to skip through some of the questions that got answered earlier. Let me see. Okay, so Gardy wants to know, how soon can I ask for an increase on my business credit card?
So every banking institution is different. Some want you to wait at least 90 days. Some want you to to be at least 6 months. Every single bank is different. I tell people typically every 6 months you can go and ask for an increase. But also remember, depending on where your credit score and income was, sometimes you may have to increase your income to get that approval or that increase.
Okay. Crystal wants to know, how does being an authorized user affect your profile?
It depends on the strategy of it. Now, I will say banks don't calculate authorized users like they used to. So you want to make sure you get with a credit specialist to, one, ensure that you're not, wasting your money. And two, authorized users are not for the sake of improving your scores. Meaning that when I talk about credit usage needs to be at 30% or less, and someone may say, okay, well, I'll add some authorized users on there to bring my usage down. The banks won't calculate that. So you actually have to pay your primary accounts down to 30% or less. So again, it's going to vary depending on what your situation, strategy, and end goal is.
Okay. I got a question from KJ that says, will getting a personal loan decrease credit utilization?
No.
No. Okay. Christopher Johnson says, my queen has $22K limit on her personal credit with Navy Fed and a C Corp. Will it be a hard inquiry for her getting capital, and how many banks should you go to in a day?
Yeah, anytime you apply for credit, it's always going to get a hard inquiry. But for those who don't know, you can actually dispute those. And as far as how hard would it be, without seeing her profile, knowing the whole situation, if the company is bank compliant, we really wouldn't have a way of knowing.
Okay, and then we got 2 questions that I think it was some folks that came in late, but these are obviously the foundation of everything. The first one is, how do I dispute things on my credit report? And the second one is, how do you get inquiries removed from your credit report?
Great question. So the best way to dispute, I always tell people, it depends on what the dispute is, what the company is. Now, I always recommend disputing on paper, mailing it in certified, and then finding like those different dispute, methods, whether disputing the last date of activity, et cetera. I mean, there's several different ways on being able to dispute, a negative item. Now, in my book, Credit is King, and this is not just a shameless plug, I actually do have sample dispute letters inside the book. So to eliminate how do you dispute, you just get access to the information. And then as far as disputing hard inquiries, it's several processes, and depends on if the account is open or closed. And essentially, when you're disputing that, you're just basically telling them, hey, I need you to show me actual hard ink on an application with my signature. And so, but again, there's several different ways and different language and terminology, which again, I have, those different templates inside my, inside my book, Credit is King.
Okay, that's great. So I got Keita in the building from Texas. Texas, what up? She says, can I dispute an auto balance that was sold from my old finance company to another collection agency? The old balance was dated back to 2017, went to collections and was closed, but the new collection agency who bought it is now reporting a current balance due, and they are reporting it as a late payment.
Yes, you definitely want to dispute that. And you want to make sure that it is not within a statute of limitations, because sometimes they can come back and sue you. But just understand that you definitely can go and dispute that information. Matter of fact, I recommend you do that tomorrow.
Okay. Frank wants to know, where can I go for credit repair?
Frank, well, that is one of the many services that we do offer. Again, King Danny, I have our information, but people can actually go to our website, wemanagementservices.com, and book a free discovery call with my team. A free discovery call at wemanagementservices.com.
Okay. I got a question about, someone would like to know about your 12-month unlimited inquiries removal, how it works and how many banks can they go to in a day?
Yeah, so it's a service that we were offering where we have unlimited inquiry removal. In as many inquiries you get, we dispute within 12 months for that one service fee. So yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. So if you go to 10 banks in one day, I don't recommend you do that every single day, because if 10 banks are denying you, obviously the next 10 are going to deny you. So you definitely want to have some strategy about that. But yeah, how many inquiries you get within that 12-month window, we dispute for you within that process.
Okay, well, I got a hard question for you on this real quick. It's non-credit related, but it's community related.
Yes.
We love transparency. So
100%.
The question is, it says, hi, Will, thanks for the info. Quite a few of us in the group have been flat out robbed by Jay Morrison and his unethical business practices. Is you or your company still affiliated with Jay? And if so, what are you doing to ease the concerns of those taken advantage of by him?
So the one thing I always tell people is that, because I get this question often. So my company was contracted by their parent company. Whatever processes or what people are going through on that side has nothing to do with what my company was affiliated with. Now, I understand that sometimes affiliation can be a detriment to the individuals who are within that circle. And again, I don't know how other people are running their companies, and I can't tell someone how to run their company. But the one thing I can say is that we've tried to operate at the highest ethical capacity within our organization. Obviously, I'm my own entity, I'm my own organization, and we can only focus on what we can control. And, for anyone who has any questions and wants to speak offline, they definitely can. But it is a process that unfortunately we did get stuck in the middle of. But, I just, pray and, hope that's not necessarily the case. Again, I don't know all of the ins and outs of what's going on. I try to, keep myself out of anything that is not affiliated with me and my company personally. But I definitely understand, what's been going on, that people have shared their concerns and comments. And, I always tell people they're more than willing to reach out to us directly if they do have any concerns that we can address for them.
Man, that's what's up, man. And I know that might have blindsided you a little bit, but I appreciate you answering that question straightforward. And
100%.
Everybody that's on the call, here's what I'm gonna tell you. From the time I reached out to Will and Michelle, they showed love. They knew that I didn't have a big budget. They knew I was trying to do this for y'all because I want us to win. I am unapologetically Black. Everybody who knows me knows that. I'm here for us to win and to come up. And they show love, and that shows character. So that's what I'm telling you. And look, when it comes down to the books and the services, I'm telling you, if you need to learn this stuff, you better go get this information from somebody who knows it, because a lot of y'all gonna try to cut corners and do what I did when I started my business credit. And I listened to a couple of videos from a dude named Juan Pablo, who was real smart about multifamily investing and business credit. And I thought that I had the game, and I went out and I kind of played myself. I got the credit, I got it, but I didn't manage it properly. I got over leveraged in a couple of my deals early on. This is the reason why you bring somebody on and you pay them, because you're paying for his bumps and bruises. That's what you're paying for. Everything that he's been through, that he lost on, well, took lessons on basically, you're paying to get those lessons ahead of time, you know. And like for me, I started getting into stock option trading over the past 30 days or so because, you know, I want to make sure I'm doing something during the COVID to level up. The girl who's in my options trading community, she's super smart, young girl, black girl. She just graduated college. I'm paying her $45 an hour to tutor me on how to do this, how to look at a play from the beginning to end, how to analyze it. And I made $1,700 this week on my second option play. So this is why you hire experts. You hire people like Will who know what they're doing and who have the expertise. So, Will, it's 8:30, man. I ain't going to hold you no longer because, like I said, man, I just appreciate the love.
I'm here.
Yeah, man.
I'll hang out for a little bit.
Okay, let me just see if we got any more questions for you before we out of here. People like, I'm ready to buy right now. All right, you know what? Will, would you mind dropping like the website and some links into the chat for folks? I know we're gonna email it over, but
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we could drop those in. That'd be great, man.
All right, so my website is wemanagementservices.com. Let me see. Send to chat. Oh, look like somebody sent me a private message. I need to send this to everybody. Let me know that show up.
Let me see. I don't see it yet. Michelle in here on point. It did not. Okay, there it is.
Oh yeah. Hey, Michelle, I wouldn't know what time of the day it is half the time. So, let me see my Instagram, all the social media platforms at Mr. Will Roundtree. Like I said, you can go right to wemanagementservices.com, book a free discovery call. I know someone asked me about the EIDL. I just want to touch on that real quick. Okay. Essentially, SBA is offering EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is essentially a loan for small and medium-sized businesses. Now, I recommend everybody, if you're in position, to apply for it. Couple reasons why. One, this is the cheapest money will ever be. No matter what your approval amount is, it's 3.75%. You don't have to make a payment for 12 months. And for those who do not know, it's a stated program. Anybody who's ever tried to apply for an SBA loan in the past, the average amount of documents you have to fill out is an average of 40 pages. It's a 6 to 9 month process, and less than 5% of businesses ever get approved for an SBA. Right now, if you're in position, go and apply for SBA, the EIDL again, because it's the cheapest money will ever be. And they actually just extended it till December of 2020. It was supposed to end September, but they extended it. Now the grant portion of it has been, is no longer being offered. They may bring it back, but this is the thing I tell people. You won't know unless you go and execute. And I know sometimes we overthink things, and King Danny made an incredible point. Sometimes we just got to go and invest in the information. You know, I get people that come to me all the time and they'll watch a video, they'll go and join one of my courses, and then they'll go and try to start a whole credit repair company. and that's cool. But if you're not giving people the right information, you're setting yourself up for failure. You know, I often say I can change my own car oil, but I don't want to. One, because I value my time, and two, I'm not a mechanic. And so sometimes we do have to invest a little bit to go and get the proper information. And then the last link I want to drop is I have a 30-day credit repair challenge. I saw a couple people in the chat who said that they had signed up for it. And it's literally a 30-day video modules that's going to show you from start to finish all you need to know about credit, how to repair your own credit, give you access to the credit bureaus, the dispute strategies. I mean, I've literally have had people, I took that course to a curriculum writer and people who are into curriculums. And I wanted to get a gauge on what I should charge for that course. They said, well, at minimum, you can charge $1,500 to $2,500 for that course. It's $297. I've had people take that 30-day credit repair challenge, invest a couple dollars it costs to get it, get their credit repaired, go and charge somebody else to fix their credit off of the information they learned and charge them more than $297. So definitely, I always tell people, if it's, you want to go and work on that on your own, the credit repair challenge is definitely a good option for my do-it-yourselfers out there who want to go through that process.
Okay.
And you have lifetime access for $297. It's not per month. That's a one-time fee, and you have lifetime access.
That's dope. All right. Well, I'm gonna hold you for 5 more questions. And I'm gonna let you get out of here.
Absolutely.
Let me see. I just want to. Okay, if you are a new business, can you apply for the EIDL?
You can. The success rate we're seeing drops significantly unless your business was established at least from January of 2020.
Okay. Let me see. Malik trying to cash out. He said, "Can I apply for an EIDL loan with all of my LLCs, even if a few of them haven't generated any income?"
If you have supporting documents, but I definitely recommend you speak with a tax strategist. And I do have access and one that I can recommend to anyone. If they reach out to you, King Danny, I can give them access to a tax strategist.
Okay. Vincent Johnson, question number 3 asks, I have everything in place for capital except fax number and address. Should I apply for funding?
You definitely can. I mean, a fax number, you can go to Ring Central. But don't let that stop you. Definitely go and apply. You'll be surprised.
Okay. Question 4 is from Sheila. She said, what if you had insurance on your credit card and that was used to pay the account for X amount of time? Does that count against you as well? I'm not sure if I completely understand.
Yeah, I kind of get the gist of the question. So on some credit cards, you can purchase insurance for disastrous reasonings and they'll make the payment. It just is going to depend on how they're reporting that information. So you probably want to check with the credit card institution and then go and check your credit. And sometimes you'll be surprised. A lot of the people at these companies know nothing about credit. So you may have to ask 5 or 6 different people before you get a conclusive answer, but definitely you want to check your report and make sure that it's not reporting any notes in the report, or that make sure that it is reporting your payments being reported on a timely manner.
Okay, this isn't a question, but it's just on the side. Christopher Johnson wants to let you know that he bought the 30-day and 2 books. He said he has the money now to get a one-on-one. So I guess he wants to know what to do to get his business that capital. He sounds like he's doing everything he can. So
appreciate that, fam. So you can actually, if you go to We Management Services, I just actually saw one of my wealth advisors in here, Justice Ross.
Justice, what up?
If he wants to send over his information or go right to We Management Services, but Justice can reach out to him through here and they can connect and get all of that together.
Okay, I think the last one. Capitola wants to know, can real estate agents apply for the SBA loan?
Yeah, I mean, it can be for any business. Now, I think it's actually an SBA advisor, financial analyst in the chat that I'm seeing. So definitely, I mean, I've seen people on all spectrums in all different businesses go and apply. And again, that's why I always recommend having that tax strategist. Like, it's 2 people we need to have on our team. Actually 3. You want to have a credit advisor, you want to have a tax strategist, and you want to have some access to some type of legal counsel or legal information. You have those 3 things in place, you'll always be able to get capital or get money or structure or broker deals to be able to get access to capital or money. So definitely.
There it is, man. So like he said, Justice Ross is in the chat. He has entered the chat. Y'all get his email. It's justice@wemanagementservices.com. Justice@wemanagementservices.com. I love that name too. If I have a son, I might name my son Justice, man. That's what we need around here. So, man, King Will, man, to you and Michelle and the whole We Management Services squad, I appreciate y'all greatly. I appreciate you answering the tough questions in here. And I appreciate all of y'all, man. 141 people in the building showed up to level up.
Definitely appreciate y'all, man. King Danny, anytime, definitely any way I could be of assistance. Anytime you want to do this again, just give me a couple of days notice. And whether it's virtually or in the city, I'm always just a flight away, man. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh man, we got to get you back. Once the COVID is gone, you coming up, you pulling up, man.
Absolutely, man. We're gonna make it happen in the flesh next time. So
most definitely. All right, y'all. Well, hey, look, y'all be safe, be productive, and make this a good week. If you've been slacking, stop slacking, get to work this week, set some goals, hit them, and let's knock it out. All right. So we out of here, and show some love to King Will, y'all. We out of here.
Appreciate that, y'all. Peace.
All right, y'all.